Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling, as you see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today in a rather late night episode because I was busy for most of the day. I was actually considering recording in the morning, like not too long after I woke up, but then I decided just to play like a few games instead. Because I didn't have enough time where I was just like, okay, I had to like immediately start recording and then I'd have to like when I was done like getting ready, basically, we'll get onto it in a bit, but I basically went out to meet up with some friends, but I was just basically what I was like, I had to like immediately start recording as soon as I finished like getting ready, and then like have to immediately leave as soon as I was done. I was like, there was no point, let's just save it for tonight. Good evening everyone, right now in Fawnhallow, it's 11:01 PM on Sunday, March 17th, 2024. So there's actually two things I could talk about today, but there's one thing which I'm just like, I'm not really sure if it's gonna take up an entire episode. I mean, I can obviously make it take up an entire episode, but it was just sort of the activities we did today. So we went into London, met up with some friends who are not from London, and we just basically had a good time with some other friends. There was like 5 to 6 of us, depending on the time period. But there was two like main things we did. One of them being it was this thing. It was basically just like a quiz, like a sort of like a general knowledge quiz-esque sort of thing, except it had like a boxing theme, like a very grandiose, over-the-top commentating thing. Like I am, like you can imagine it like a boxing commentator, like I am the red corner. Excuse me, I'm sneezing. It was well. It was meant to be like a very sort of hype up sort of thing. The reason I don't save as much to say about it is, in actuality, it wasn't really too different from just like a regular old quiz, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it was very much the aesthetic and so I suppose the vibe of a boxing thing, but there's not too much to say about it. Or maybe I'm just not in enough of a conversational mood, I suppose, to really mill that for like an entire day's worth of entire days, 20 minutes worth of conversation. It was pretty cool though. It was actually came down really to the wire. Like I was like 5th, and then I got in second in the second round, and then I got like first in the third and fourth round, and then in the 5th round I came second by 2 points. Like I got like 117, and the person who won got 119. I would say I'm very much through in the final round. Like I think I got like almost. I got like I answered like I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I got like more questions wrong than I got right on the last round somehow. I don't know. It was just like, it was basically you had to say true or false, and then you get 2 points if you get it correct, and you lose 1 point if you get it wrong. But like the faster you answer, like the more things you can answer. And for some reason that I somehow got like the first 7 questions wrong. Some of them, which is I thought I knew, and I actually just said wrong, but like 5 of them I just had like no idea, and I just guessed wrong each time, which, you know, it's unlucky, but at the end of the day, you know, by losing by 2 points is not, I mean, it just means that like I could have got those 2 points anywhere. It's not really that thing. Oh, I will say they also had like a mechanic. Well, okay, maybe there's enough to talk about like an entire thing. Okay, well maybe we'll talk about this instead of like actual what I was going to talk about. The other thing I was going to talk about is like we went to like 2 vegan restaurants or something, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by both of them. But no, we're going to talk about this sort of like a quiz boxing sort of thing. It was interesting, I would say. So basically, you know, there's like 6 podiums, and then like each person gets a podium, and we just like answer questions. I would say there's parts of it I do like. Obviously, a quiz aspect is like kind of fun, I suppose, to play with friends, and it's nice to have like this sort of atmosphere about it, like a general vibe. You know, like the only general vibes that you tend to at least get is like pub quizzes, which, you know, their general vibes is just like drinking, I suppose, having a fun time with friends in that sense. This one at least had like an aesthetic of like there's more grandioseness to it, which is cool. And they also had like the podiums were like light up. You could see when someone hadn't answered yet because their podium was blue, and you like buzzed in, their podium turned orange, and then like if you got the question right, everyone got revealed at the same time. You get like a green light above you, and if you got it wrong, you got like a red light above you, which I guess now I think about it, it's probably not great if you're colorblind, but still. So it was very cool in that sort of thing. The questions, I would say, varied, and from like interesting to non-interesting. I would say most of them were pretty standard. Some of them were like really easy, and then some of them, I'm not going to say they're impossible, but they were just like I've got no clue because they're not even close to my sort of area of expertise. But there was no question which really made me go, "Wow, that's a cool question," or anything like that. They were just fine, I would say. But there was one sort of like tricksy one. I can't remember what it was though. which caught a lot of people out, but not me. But we had 5 rounds, and the first round was like a standard round of answering questions, except for there was this concept called like jokers they had, where basically you could have like these 3 jokers, and you can use them on other people to like disrupt their question answering. One of them was like called uppercut or something, which basically meant you would nullify any points they got for that round. And another one was like double tackle or double punch or something like that, which is basically like if the person you select got the question right, you also get double their points or something like that. And the third one was like swipe or hook or something, where basically like you would take whatever points they got for that round. And in the first round, any correct answer got you 2 points, any incorrect answer didn't lose you any points, so you might as well just answer. I would say the jokers just went flying like crazy to begin with, and I didn't honestly I didn't do that great on the first round because I didn't actually know a lot of the answer. I did like averagely, but I think the thing which held me back on that round was like I basically used I used 1 joker, I think, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna save these for like, because I was like, something in my mind was like, maybe in the later rounds would be worth more points, because, you know, currently they said if you get a question right, it's worth 2, and if you get it wrong, it's worth 0. So I was like, maybe it's worth waiting until like later rounds. Maybe it will be like, oh, now it's worth like 3 or 4, and, you know, that's more efficient, I suppose. And part of me sort of wants to see what happens with the jokers, you know. You know, and part of me did very much consider, I was like, I wonder if I can get through this entire thing without, you know, like using any jokers. And then, you know, the jokers started flying like crazy, and it ended up being kind of funny using them. So I was like, okay, I went and used them later, not in that round. But I ended up 5th in that round, I think. And I think probably a large contribution was the fact it was so early. I didn't do like amazingly or anything, and I didn't use any jokers. So I had jokers used on me. What was the second round? The second round was a true or false round, and this is when I started like having a huge catch up. It was like you're shown a statement, you had to say it was true or false, but if you get it right, you get 2 points. If you get it wrong, you lose a point. But you only have a set amount of time, like 75 seconds, I think, to answer as many questions as possible. So it's like you have to weigh up like how quickly do you go, how much time do you spend on each question. You just like send it. I think I got reasonably lucky with questions, where I was just like, I know most of these questions and the answers, and then some of them I just guessed reasonably quickly. So I had a big catch up in that round, to be perfectly honest, where eventually I just like, you know, I somehow got my way back to 2nd place. So it wasn't like that many points, I think, separating all of us. I don't remember off the top of my head because I did not take pictures of the scoreboards or anything. So that was kind of interesting. It was kind of like a dis or dat, I suppose, from Jackbox. And then the third one was a speed round, where it's basically everyone had to buzz in with the right answer, but only the top 3 people would actually get points. But you get no points, but you don't lose any points if you get it wrong or that sort of thing. I think I did reasonably well in that one. Like I didn't do like break out amazingly, but I think it was enough to get me into 1st place or something. Because, I mean, my strategy in that one was like I basically evaluated with the first second of me looking at a question is like, do I know the answer to this? If I do know the answer, then, you know, I actually take the time to think of what the answer is. If I don't know the answer, I just not randomly send it, but I'm like, okay, this one feels like it would be, wow, we have a recipe we didn't know, and now it's just like a normal recipe. I just sent the answer which seemed to make the most sense to me, like within a split second. So I did reasonably well with that. Again, I'm not really talking about the questions that were asked, because there was not many which were like that crazy or anything. The 4th round, this is the penultimate round. This is basically the first round again, but if you get a question wrong, you lose a point. And this is where it gets a little bit interesting, because the power-ups actually do affect the negative points. So there was one thing where I was like, I got a question wrong, but someone used an uppercut on me to block any point change for that round. They actually blocked my -1 point, so I didn't lose a point that round, despite the fact I got the question wrong, which I thought was incredibly interesting. And then that's when I actually started using my power-ups. I think that's when I started making more of a lead, because everyone else had used, I think, quite a decent amount of power-ups by that point. It was just me who had used like only 1 that entire time. And I actually got maximum points from all my power-ups. Like every time I did a double up, the person got it right. Every time I stole it, but they also got it right. I very much targeted one person, I suppose, mostly, but he also targeted me all the time. And I suppose we'll get on to targeting in a bit. And the 5th round was basically the second round again with a this or that. but it was literally exactly the same. But as I said, I hard through in that round. Like the previous rounds, I got like 20, 30 points or something. I got 9 points at that final round because I just got so many questions wrong. I was actually surprised at how badly I was doing. Like when I got the first like 7 questions wrong, I was like, what is wrong with me? 50% chance, even at random. I will say Animal Crossing New Horizons actually was a question on there. It was Animal Crossing New Horizons is a game about building a metropolis. And it actually made me hesitate because I was like, I wonder what they consider a metropolis. Like, I guess it is building an island. I don't know if I'd really call it a metropolis. So I like sat there thinking for probably too long before I was just like, false. And it was like, okay, yeah, okay. Like, I don't know why I spent so much time thinking. It was very much an island is not a metropolis. But these sort of things, like there's a weird meta to these. I don't know how to describe it, but there's a distinct difference between like questions from like a genuine quiz, like university challenge sort of level, or like a reputable pub quiz and that sort of thing, and things which are just sort of used like for fun escort questions, which this one very much like fell in the category of. You just sort of get the vibe of it, I suppose, by answering the questions. And it's a thing where it's just like, this is what I think the answer is, but I wonder what they think the answer is, because like these questions and answers are like not well researched. Like, I'm not saying they're incorrect, but they're more like probably done quickly, or like I'm sure that some of them perpetuate, I suppose, like common myths or something like that. But that's the sort of like thing I was thinking about. Which is basically me just overanalyzing like why it took so long to answer the New Horizons question, despite the fact it's a game I've played every day for the past like 4 years. I was pretty surprised though. That it was there, but there was a load of other questions and some of them I was just surprised at how many I just got wrong, to be honest. Anyway, so I did end up losing. I'm not actually upset by it. I ended up losing. I think what I'm more upset by is the fact I on the very last question I decided to just randomly answer it because I was like, why not? And I got -1 point for it. I really wish I didn't answer it, because then it would have lost by 1 point. I mean, I would have been like, what a delicious sort of like ending to that entire thing. Well, my friend would have like a huge comeback to beat me out by 1 point. That sounds like beating out by 2 points is still very cool and very impressive, but beating out by 1 point makes it feel like, doesn't it feel just like that much more delicious? I don't know, maybe I'm like weird like that. I wouldn't know. I mean, true. But I feel like it just would have made a better story and that sort of thing. Anyway, the winner got prizes, which I was like, he said at the beginning you get like 3 mystery prizes. One of them was like actual boxing like lessons, which it's a good thing that he won that, because I would like never have used that, to be perfectly honest. One, I can't use it because I have a bad shoulder. I guess I would have just given it to him. And the second number 2 was like a discount at like an escape room they're partnered with, and the third one was you get a free, if you come back there again you get a free, like it's free for you, not for like one, you get like a +1 person for free or whatever, essentially, which is kind of cool. Like, would I ever do it again? Maybe. I don't know if I do that specific one again. I will say they did have 2 like modes. They had like classic mode, and then they had like explicit mode, which is all like sexual things and like alcohol and stuff like that, which is, I guess it's more like a drunk party sort of game. So I understand the sort of vibe they're going for. No battery. I think it was okay. I do think there were issues with the thing. One is that, like, as one of my friends said later, that room had like no circulation in it whatsoever. They had a smoke machine going, which was, obviously it added to the effect, but it did mean that you were basically inhaling smoke for the entire thing. 2, it was actually really surprisingly quite a slow quiz. Like the first and fourth rounds were like really dragged on, because hello tarantula, they basically had like a drum roll. There was like 15 seconds to answer the questions, which I honestly thought was quite long, because it's like boxing themed. I feel like it should be like constantly keeping up the pressure. You had like constant back and forth, and if anything, we should have pauses in between the rounds for you to like catch your breath, rather than having rounds which are low key energy. But I don't know, your mileage may vary, because they had like such a long time to answer the question, and then they had like a huge like 5-second drum roll after everyone had submitted their answers, or once the timer hit 0, before they revealed who got things right and who got things wrong, which I felt like is too slow to be perfectly honest. But that's your mileage may vary. I I think the Joker aspect was pretty cool, but one thing which my friend brought up, which I was like, that's a really good idea, is that they should allow you to defend against Jokers, to be perfectly honest. They did limit how many Jokers you could be targeted by at once, so you could only be targeted by one other person each time, each round. Although, to be fair, I did get targeted twice in a round, somehow. I don't even know how, but they, I guess, both selected at exactly the same time, which I found very funny. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, they also gave stats at the end. They were just like, who was targeted by the most Jokers? And it was me. I lost 16 points through Jokers. And it was like, who got the most points through Jokers? And it was me. I got 12 points from the Jokers. So I was quite heavily targeted, which I find interesting, because I don't think I'm like a favourite necessarily to win, like a pub quiz sort of thing. Which is weird for me to say, because, you know, I guess I was winning and I've, you know, had a very good chance of winning. Maybe it's just me being, like, overly humble, I suppose, or, like, overly unaware of my own abilities. It's more about, like, I have a pretty good memory, as I say. So if I hear, like, a question, I will probably remember the answer to it. But in general, like, I mean, one of the entire rounds was, oh, I forgot, there was a music round where you, like, buzz in with the right answer. That was a whole buzzing round. I don't listen to that much, like, music, especially, like, popular music, so a lot of things I don't know, and I don't, like, know any, like, pop culture or sports things. If it's, like, a science-based round, like, if it's University Challenge or that sort of thing, then I'm like, okay, yeah, then I have a decent chance of winning that sort of thing, but it's not like I don't see myself as, like, that crazy good at pub quizzes or, like, quizzes in general. I'm good, I guess, but, like, I'm not, like, crazy good, so, yeah, I do find it funny how targeted I was. And I respect it because, you know, I mean, it made me come second in the end. So, you know, it was a strategy which ends up working. But a friend brought up, there was like, there should be a Joker which allows you to defend if you think, like, you're going to be targeted. And that way you can, like, have multiple people targeting someone. I mean, you can use a defense and it just, like, negates anything which targeted you, which I was like, that's actually, like, a really good idea. In my opinion. I do think it was probably too many Jokers. Because they gave each person 9, which made it, like, I guess it made it chaotic, but, like, not in a very, how should I put it? I guess the game feel of using the Jokers was not a reward enough to justify having so many of them for the chaos it could have ensued, you know. Like, I guess to use a comparison, like in Mario Kart, you know, using some of these items feels transformative, it feels cool, it feels awesome, and like it feels chaotic and random and map fun. It's absolute madness, I suppose, the amount of items which get tossed around in Mario Kart, but they all have like a genuine feel to them. This one, I don't know, I feel like the feedback from using the Jokers didn't feel that satisfying, in my opinion. Especially for, I think it's because the general vibe of the entire quiz was very hype, it was very sort of like boxing announcer ring, which, you know, I think it would have been cooler with an actual person, but I guess that's like really expensive overhead costs and that sort of thing. Combined with a sort of like weirdly slow pacing in some of the rounds, meant that the Jokers kind of got like overshadowed as like a power up to use. I'm just trying to think like how would I improve it? I feel like there should be more transformative Jokers or like big things, big swings. I think by using such small point increments of 2 and 1, it makes it a bit difficult to like really get like big swings and big vibes in that way, because doesn't it feel awesome to get like, whoa, 10 points or that sort of thing, even if it's fundamentally the same, even if all the numbers were just multiplied by 5 or something, and it was essentially the same game, it feels better in that sort of way. I think that's my personal opinion. I like the concept of these like gambling-esque Jokers. I feel like maybe the Jokers should have been more like risk-rewardy-esque. One of them just like blocking points entirely, I think was just like quite boring. The one about I think it was basically only kind of interesting in a round where you could lose points of them, but like losing 1 point wasn't like a huge deal in my opinion. I don't know, it's just like I guess that's my criticism of it. It's like they weren't quite interesting enough to justify being so subtly chaotic, you know? It was me over-analysing this sort of thing. I had a great time, to be honest. Like, don't take it as I had a terrible time or anything like that. I thought it was a really fun time, to be honest. I like quizzes. Like, I love these sort of things, but mainly that's because I like just answering questions more than, you know, the actual competition aspect of it. So maybe it's lost on me. Like, maybe my friends who aren't so interested in answering questions were having much more of a whale of a time with Jokers and that sort of thing. I'm not saying the Jokers shouldn't have existed. I think they should have existed. I just wanted them to be more transformative, which is weird, I suppose. because it undermines the competitive aspect of it. But like, if you have these sort of elements in the first place, you should, in my opinion, like commit the entire way, and like there should be things which like totally undermine the aspect of it in the first place. Maybe not enough where it's just like, oh, you know, like swap someone's points or something like that, but they should feel flashy. They should be smaller, and they should feel flashier, in my opinion. Especially for a thing which had the entire vibe of boxing, which is meant to be like quite a big hype event, right? But I do like the lighting effects. I think that was like quite fun, that sort of thing. I don't know, it's just kind of like fun doing quiz sort of things. Is it my favourite group activity? I think karaoke is still my favourite group activity, but I'm not going to complain. It was something new, and I very much enjoyed it. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm just surprised. It just like, oh, there was another round I forgot as well, which is basically like the Jackbox, the time travel quiz game, where basically you were given a question which has a numerical answer, and you had to basically guess as close to it as possible. I think it was cool having like the sort of light effects light up people if they got it right and wrong. I felt like the sort of grandioseness via that felt really awesome. So I guess it's sort of like some of it hit, some of it didn't quite hit, but at the end of time, it's a fun game, I think. It's always fun to have these sort of fun, small experiences. Anyway, okay, round this episode up here. I didn't actually expect to talk about 20 minutes about it, but, you know, just got to remember, if I just take things like, I don't know how to talk about this in 20 minutes. Yeah, you do. Just, like, start analysing it. That's how I get myself to talk about anything for an endless amount of time. Anyway, I'm going to round this episode up here. If you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope you see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now. I also forgot to say, it's nearly the start of Year 5 of Animal Crossing, which I totally did not realise how soon it was coming up. I have started the thumbnail art. I might not finish it in time. I will warn you now, because I genuinely did not realise it was coming up so quickly. It should be simpler. The background in this one is like significantly simpler. It's still drawing like a lot of different characters though. I'm gonna do my best, but I'm just warning you now, I might not finish it in time. Anyway, bye bye for now.